Hi, this is Carrie from Easy Immune Health, and today we're going to be talking about whether you should get your vitamin D from sunlight or not. One is going to make an evolutionary argument for what a natural vitamin D level might be. Why don't we get our vitamin D in the way nature intended? Sun instead of supplements. Let's run through the pros and cons. First of all, supplements may only cost about $10 a year, and sunlight is free. You'll never have to worry about getting too much from sunlight since your body has a way to regulate production in the skin. So we don't have to put our trust in poorly regulated supplement companies that might mislabel their products. In fact, there have been vitamin D supplements that have caused toxicity, particularly in children who are more vulnerable at higher dosages. And these were all due to mislabeling. In fact, only about half the brands carry 10% of their labeled amount. And sunlight may have benefits beyond vitamin D, like the amazing story of how your body may use the sun's near-infrared rays that penetrate your skin to activate chlorophyll byproducts in your bloodstream to make a nutrient called coenzyme Q10. Coenzyme Q10 is a necessary nutrient for heart health in particular and a very good antioxidant. There's another way your body appears to use the sun's rays to maximize the effects of the greens we eat. Within 30 minutes of exposure to ultraviolet rays and sunlight, you can get a significant drop in blood pressure and improvement in arterial function due to a burst of nitric oxide releasing compounds flow into your bloodstream. Amazingly, we can even measure the amount of off-gassing of nitric oxide directly from our skin. And don't confuse this with nitrous oxide, the gas that you get for dental anesthesia. That's a totally different compound. This is nitric oxide, and it's good for blood pressure. Of course, you actually have to eat your greens or beets in the first place for this to happen, but that combo of greens and sunlight may explain the protection that plant-based eaters experience. Morning sunlight may help those with seasonal affective disorder or seasonal depression, as well as improving the mood of wheelchair-bound nursing home residents. I've talked about the benefits of avoiding light at night, but underexposure to daytime sunlight may also affect our melatonin levels, which doesn't just regulate our circadian rhythms, but may also be helpful in the prevention of cancer and other diseases. Older men and women getting 2 hours of outside light during the day appear to secrete 15% more melatonin at night, although we're not sure what, if any, clinical significance this has. The downsides of sun exposure include increased risk of cataracts, a leading cause of vision loss, though this risk can be minimized by wearing a brimmed hat. Of course, we all know how sunlight can age your skin, as illustrated here. Who can guess what profession this guy was in? You guessed it, he was a truck driver who spent his decades getting more sun on the left side of his face. You can see what sun can do, and we all know that this can happen, but this just illustrates it very well. The effects of sunlight on the skin are profound, accounting for up to 90% of visible skin aging, wrinkles, thickening, and loss of skin elasticity. Things like sun exposure and smoking, in other words, lifestyle issues, can make you look 11 years older. Cosmetic surgery can only make you look 8 years younger, but a healthy lifestyle may work even better. The reason doctors preach sun protection, though, is not for youthful facial looks, although that is one benefit, but because of skin cancer. Medical authorities from the World Health Organization, the American Cancer Society, and the Surgeon General warn about excess sun exposure for good reason. Given the millions of skin cancers and thousands of deaths diagnosed every year in the US alone, UV rays in sunlight are considered a so-called complete carcinogen. This means that they can not only initiate cancer, but promote its progression and spread, something called metastasis, that is the fear of cancer patients. Melanoma is the scariest type of skin cancer and causes the most deaths, which makes the rising incidence among young women particularly alarming. So what can we do? Well, one of the things that we can do is to get small amount of sun exposure that doesn't allow us to burn. Keep our head covered so that we don't age our skin, and keep our eyes covered for cataract prevention. Even some in main scientists in the mainstream, like from this dermatoendocrinology study, are saying the message of sun avoidance must be changed to from complete avoidance to acceptance of non-burning sun exposure sufficient to give serum vitamin D level concentrations of 30 nanogram per moles or higher in the sunny season, and the general benefit of UV exposure beyond those of vitamin D. In the absence of being able to get adequate but small amounts of sun exposure, or being able to get enough to increase your vitamin D levels, we do recommend that you get a vitamin D test and manage your vitamin D levels to keep them within optimal of 40 to 60 nanograms per moles, nanograms per milliliter with vitamin D supplements. Just make sure they're from a good brand such as Biotech, and they come in the form of vitamin D3, and that should eliminate any possibility of toxicity from poor supplement management. This is Gary from Easy Immune Health. I hope you enjoyed this. Melanoma is the scariest, which makes the rising incidence among young women particularly alarming. This increase has been blamed on the increased usage of tanning salons. So although tanning salons are one way that we can get our vitamin D, tanning beds and UV rays in general are considered class 1 carcinogens like processed meat, accounting for as many as 3/4 of melanoma cases among young people. That's 6 times the risk of melanoma for those who visited tanning salons 10 or more times before the age of 30. 76% of all melanomas in young people were attributed to sunbed use. And tanning industry is big business. In the US alone, it employs over 160,000 people and profits are over US 5 billion per year. One US study reported that tanning salons were more common than either Starbucks or McDonald's. And they use those dollars, like the tobacco industry, to downplay the risks of products. New laws are being passed to regulate tanning salons, including prohibitions, like in the country of Brazil, to age restrictions for minors. But unlike tobacco, tanning isn't addictive, or is it? There are people who tan compulsively and report a so-called tanner's high. Describing tanning behavior like a substance abuse disorder seems on its face a little silly until you stick people in a brain scan and show the same kind of reward pathways light up in the brain, thanks to the endorphins released by your skin when you're exposed to UV rays. The current studies suggest that UV exposure is biologically addictive, but dangerous due to UV's mutagenic activities toward formation of common forms of skin cancer. Just simply do not recommend tanning beds, not to mention the fact that tanning beds mostly produce UVB rays and not the UVA rays that vitamin D produces. It, Tanning beds can increase vitamin D, but it's not clear how viable that is to produce vitamin D. There are vitamin D tanning beds, but those are few and far between. The vitamin D specific tanning beds seem to be safe. The jury would still be out. And, it, and currently we don't recommend sunbeds to be used as a source of vitamin D to the general population.